Hi, my name is Josh Yellen, and I'm the Program Director for the Master of Athletic Training program at the University of Houston. Leslie Taylor has asked me to be a part of this session called Site Visits Plan B When Things Don't Go as Planned. The first thing that you probably need to know is that things will never go as planned. So make sure that you have plan A and B and C set up, but also make sure that you've got plans D through Z set up. How do you make sure that you do this? Well, first is, I think that everybody needs to be able to look at this as an opportunity to get better. A site visit is an opportunity for you to be able to sharpen the saw, to make sure that what you're producing is in line with national standards. And I think that if you look at it through that lens, it will relieve a lot of stress and anxiety. The second thing is, make sure that you build your team. What we did is that we built our University of Houston CATIE site visit team, and that was composed of myself and our clinical coordinator Mark Knobloch, our medical director. We had preceptors from the University of Houston, our department chair. We had business administrators, our dean, representatives from the provost office, representatives from academic and assessment plans and accreditation. So make sure that when you're building your team that you're able to talk up and down and across. So you really need to be able to communicate 360 degrees. Be prepared to be prepared. So for instance, even the submission of our self-study didn't go as planned. In preparing to present our self-study to our University of Houston CATIE accreditation team, I accidentally hit the submit button. And so I had to call Ashley Ahern with the CATIE and ask her to reset the entire thing and explain what happened. So be prepared to be prepared, that your plan isn't always going to go as you want it. Make sure that you're strategizing all of the different possibilities that could happen. What happens if the technology goes out? What happens if the weather isn't great? What happens if the rooms that you wanted to use aren't going to be available? What happens if the preceptors you want to be there can't be there? What happens if the clinical sites that you want to be available won't be there? And also the other thing that we did too is that we researched our site visitors. The first plan was that we had 2 site visitors coming, and then because of the weather, then there was possibility of 1 site visitor, and then there was going to be the site visitor, and then the reader was going to be on site. So make sure that you've got all of these different contingency plans in place. So in our case, I was hired in June of 2013 to come and establish the program. And some of my first tasks that I had to do was to go and hire a clinical coordinator. I was lucky enough to find somebody like Mark Knobloch, and then to build the curriculum and standards and procedures and everything that goes into building an athletic training program today. And the entire time you've got to be able to have some long-range goals and make sure that everything you're doing is going to help the end, which is making sure that we can submit a self-study and that the site visit goes well. So in our case, I started in June of 2013, and the site visit didn't happen until late January 2016. So getting up to the site visit, everything is going as planned. You know who your site visitor is going to be. You know who the site visit chair is going to be. You know who the reader is going to be. And you start doing research on them. And you start to try to get to know them and who they are and all of these other things. And then a major storm hit, and it shut down the entire Northeast. So I was working in concert with the CATIE that our site visit chair, Michelle O'Dye, she was probably going to make it out. But another site visitor on the team, she was not going to be able to make it out because she was stuck in the storm. So maybe they were going to send the reader, Lindsay Eberman. Maybe they were not going to send the reader, Lindsay Eberman, because she may have been stuck in the storm. So you're trying to make all of these adjustments on the fly, and you're trying to follow this itinerary and this plan that you've had in place now for like 2.5 years. And you're making these adjustments, and you're trying to make everything work, and you're trying to communicate as best as you can. So the next tip that I think I would have is, first obviously prepare for anything. And make sure that you've got some chains of communication set up. So when you're trying to coordinate these 1,000 moving parts, that the lines of communication are going to go pretty smoothly, and that you work with your team to make sure that, look, these are all the situations that can happen, and these are our contingency plans of how we're going to operate when they do happen. Make sure that you just keep your eyes on the prize. You're there to make sure that you can build a good program, that the product you've put together can get nationally recognized by the CATIE. And don't forget why you're doing this. You're doing this because you want to make a difference in the profession. You're doing this because it's going to benefit the community that you're a part of. You're doing this because it's going to benefit the university that you're a part of. You're doing this because the students believe in you. So it's the day of the site visit, and this is something that, right, we've prepared for at least a year in making sure that we're putting together the self-study, and we're strategizing, and we're communicating with our CATIE site visit team up and down the communication chain. And the day of the site visit arrives, and Michelle O'Dye and Lindsay Eberman, they're able to coordinate with the CATIE, and they both land at the airport and they get picked up together, and we coordinated that there was going to be a hotel on campus for them. And so the only analogy that I can give is you've prepared and you've strategized and you've thought about this, and you've lost nights of sleep, and you've tried to you've gone through different contingency plans. And to put it into an analogy that everybody can understand, you got to be able just to kick the ball off and have faith that the plan you've put together will work. I remember listening to Nick Saban one time saying that you can't coach against ghosts. And what that meant was you've planned and you've strategized and you've thought about every possibility, and you feel like you're prepared for it. And so now you just have to let the whole thing unfold. So make sure that you plan your work and that you work your plan and that you've communicated with everybody that you need to communicate with, and have faith in your team. As the leader of the program, you've put together this team, and you've made sure that you've strategized with them and that you've communicated with them, and that they understand what your vision is, and they understand what the main objective is to make sure that the site visit goes well, and that the ultimate objective is that the program is accredited despite all the chaos that's going around. The other thing that you have to remember too is that the site visitors are there to help. They want you to be successful too. They've read through your self-study. They've invested a lot of time and a lot of energy to read through what you've put together. So they want to see you be successful too, because they're just as invested as you are in making sure that this goes well. In the end, we had thought we planned for everything, but you can't. You have to make sure that you've got these contingency plans set up. Like I said in the beginning, make sure that you have plans A, B, and C, but when they don't work, make sure that you've got plans D through Z ready to go. In our case, the weather put a huge snafu in what we were doing. We had never planned for that. And then so we had to kind of shuffle around and make sure that things were going to work to try to accommodate the site visitors and try to accommodate the change in plans. In our case, we had to change some policies on the fly. We had to make sure that when we did that our department chair and our dean and students knew about some of these policy changes. Make sure that you understand your site visit team and that you do some research on who they are, so regardless of who shows up, you kind of know who they are in the beginning, because in the beginning of the site visit, you're going to have an opportunity to visit. And you have to remember, we're all just athletic trainers, and we're trying to put together this product, and we're trying to do this for the good of the profession and trying to help each other out. The other thing that I learned too is being able to coordinate with university administration, being able to coordinate with my department chair and the dean and the provost office, and that especially in a place like Houston, make sure that you accommodate for traffic. Maybe on a Friday afternoon it was going to take 4 hours to get to a place, but on a Tuesday morning it was going to take 30 minutes. So you had to plan and strategize and figure out traffic flow patterns and areas around restaurants, all these other things. So The other thing I would tell you is make sure that you celebrate every step. For us, once we had put together the product for the self-study, we met with our UHKD accreditation team, and we said everything is in place and now we're going to go for the approvals. And I remember when the provost signed off on the self-study, it was a celebration. And then I remember we got the president to sign off on the site visit or on the self-study. It was a celebration. Make sure you celebrate every little victory. Ultimately, in the end, I have some more gray hair. I have less hair. There were a lot of sleepless nights. But in the end, this was a meaningful product that we put together. And we really feel like we made a difference. We made a difference not just to the students, but we made a difference to the athletic training community in the Houston area. We feel like we made a difference to the university. And ultimately, we're all working together to try to make a difference in the profession. So I appreciate being able to be a part of this. Thank you very much, and have a great day.